He swore to love me while secretly planning my downfall. How do you laugh with someone, play with someone, smile with someone, even make love to them while you secretly plan on betraying them? This is literally sleeping with the enemy. This story will remind us that sometimes the people that you are scared of are not even the strangers. They are the people closest to you, and sometimes the people you sleep in bed with. This story will make you understand that treating people with kindness and with honesty will get you far more in life than money. So, my beautiful flowers, please watch this story and share with me what you understand or what you feel about it. I will be in the comment section. Thank you very much.
Amara Williams stood quietly in the living room as the man of the house explained her duties. Chinedu Carter spoke calmly but firmly, as if he had repeated the same instructions to many people before her. He told her she would stay in the small room beside the kitchen and that her responsibilities were simple: clean the house every day, wash the clothes, and cook good meals. He added that she would be going to the market twice every week to buy fresh food for the house. If she needed anything, she could speak to him or his fiancée. Amara nodded respectfully. "Yes, sir, I can do all that." Chinedu studied her briefly, then nodded with approval. "Good, very good." He reminded her of one final rule before leaving the room. "No gossip with neighbors and no unnecessary conversations outside this compound. Just focus on your work." "I understand, sir." Satisfied, Chinedu left the living room and Amara began arranging a few things in the kitchen so she could prepare dinner later that evening. She had barely settled into the house when a voice suddenly erupted behind her like thunder. "Hey!" Amara turned quickly. Standing at the entrance of the kitchen was Zainab Carter, Chinedu's fiancée. Her expression was cold and furious, the kind of look that made Amara instantly nervous. "You dirty, useless girl," Zainab snapped, walking toward her. "Do you think I don't know what you're trying to do here?" Amara blinked in confusion. "Ma?" "Don't pretend to be innocent with me," Zainab shouted. "You think cooking good food will make my man notice you? You think I don't know girls like you?" Amara's heart started pounding. "I would never." "Shut up," Zainab cut her off sharply. The kitchen fell silent as Zainab stepped closer until they were standing only inches apart. "Listen to me carefully," she said in a low voice filled with warning. "From today onward, I do not want you cooking good food for my man." Amara frowned, completely confused. "Ma?" "I don't care how you do it," Zainab continued. "Burn the food, ruin it, make it tasteless. But you will not cook any delicious meal for him again." Amara stared at her, struggling to understand what she had just heard. "Yes, Ma," she said slowly. Zainab looked satisfied. "Good. Make sure you remember what I said." She turned and walked out of the kitchen, leaving Amara standing there in silence. Amara let out a long breath once the woman was gone. "I have not even stayed 2 days in this house," she muttered to herself. And trouble has already started. That evening, Amara prepared dinner as carefully as she always did. Cooking was one of the few things she truly loved doing. Her mother had taught her everything she knew in their small village kitchen many years ago. Even when she tried to follow Zainab's strange instruction to make the food bad, her hands automatically created something delicious. When Chinedu sat down at the dining table and tasted the meal, his face brightened immediately. "This is amazing," he said with surprise. He took another spoonful. "Honey," he called upstairs, "you need to taste this. This girl can cook." Zainab walked into the dining room moments later. She looked at the plate on the table with suspicion before tasting the food. Her expression darkened instantly. She dropped the spoon. "I suddenly lost my appetite," she said coldly. Chinedu looked confused. "You lost your appetite?" "Yes." Without another word, she walked away and disappeared upstairs. Chinadu shrugged and continued eating. This is really good, he said to himself. But the moment he left the dining room later that night, Zainab stormed into the kitchen. Her anger had returned stronger than before. Did I not warn you yesterday? She demanded. Amara froze. I told you not to make good food for him. I'm sorry, Ma, Amara said quickly. I tried. Before she could finish speaking, Zainab grabbed a large container of salt from the shelf. Pour this inside the soup. Amara's eyes widened. Ma, the soup is almost ready. I said pour it. Please, Ma. Are you challenging me? No, Ma. Then do it. Zainab forced the salt container toward the pot. Pour everything. Amara hesitated for a second before slowly tipping the salt into the soup. White grains poured endlessly into the pot until the entire meal was ruined. Good, Zainab said with satisfaction. Now taste it. Amara scooped a spoonful and tasted the soup. The salt burned her tongue immediately. Next time, Zainab said quietly, you follow instructions. The following morning, Chinadu sat at the dining table ready for breakfast. Amara served the soup nervously. The moment he tasted it, he spat it out. What is this? He stared at the bowl in disbelief. Is this soup or salt? Amara lowered her head. I'm sorry, sir. What kind of mistake is this? He demanded angrily. Is this what I'm paying you for? I'm sorry, sir. It was a mistake. Chinadu pushed the plate away in frustration. Take this nonsense away and cook something else immediately. Amara carried the bowl back to the kitchen quietly while Zainab watched from the corner of the room with us. Later that afternoon, Amara met her friend outside the compound for a short break. My sister, I'm tired, Amara said as they spoke. What happened again? These madams in big houses, she sighed. They treat house helps like we are not human beings. Her friend shook her head. Don't let it discourage you. Just focus on your work and keep saving money so you can go back to school. Amara nodded slowly. That was the only reason she was enduring everything happening in that house. She needed the job. She needed the money. And no matter how difficult things became inside the Carter mansion, she kept reminding herself of something her mother once told her long ago. Sometimes in life, patience is the quiet strength that protects the innocent while truth slowly prepares to reveal itself. The following morning, Amara woke before sunrise and went straight to the kitchen. She moved quietly around the house, sweeping the floors and arranging the living room the way she had been instructed. The mansion was always silent at that hour, and she had begun to appreciate those early moments when she could work without the tension that filled the house once everyone woke up. She had barely finished arranging the dining table when Chinadu Carter walked into the kitchen. Good morning, he said. Good morning, sir, Amara replied politely. He stood near the counter for a moment as if thinking about something. Do you know how to prepare beans and plantain? Yes, sir. Chinadu raised his hand immediately. No, I'm not talking about the type where you cook beans and fry plantain separately. I'm talking about the real combination. The one where you boil the beans and cook the plantain inside it together. Amara nodded. Yes, sir, I know it. My mother used to cook it for us when I was growing up. Chinadu smiled faintly. God bless your mother. That's exactly what I want to eat today. Prepare it for me. Yes, sir. He began walking away but stopped suddenly and looked back. Be mindful of the salt this time. Amara lowered her head slightly. Yes, sir. By late afternoon, the food was ready. Amara carefully placed the pot on the table and served the meal exactly the way she had been taught. The smell of the beans and plantain filled the dining room. Chinadu sat down and began eating. A few seconds later, Zainab Carter walked into the dining room. What are we having? She asked casually. Chinadu gestured toward the plate. Beans and plantain. Zainab stared at the food in disbelief. Beans? Jason beans? Chinadu continued eating calmly. Yes. Zainab wrinkled her nose as if she had just smelled something unpleasant. What kind of food is this? What kind of mixture is this? She leaned closer to the plate. This is poison. Why are you eating this kind of food? Chinadu looked up slowly. When I say something, you always think I'm joking, he replied calmly. This is actually a very good meal. Zainab shook her head in disgust. You went and brought some roadside maid to come and cook this kind of concoction for you. She pushed the plate slightly. You want to kill me with this? Chinadu sighed. You don't have to eat it if you don't want to. Of course I won't eat it, she snapped. I cannot deal with this. She stormed out of the dining room angrily. Chinadu watched her leave, then continued eating quietly. From the kitchen doorway, Amara watched everything with growing confusion. Later that evening, she stepped outside the compound to speak briefly with her friend who ran a small food business nearby. My sister, strange things are happening in this house, Amara said. What happened again? Her friend asked. Amara explained everything. My boss asked me to cook beans and plantain for him. I did exactly what he asked. But the madam came downstairs shouting and saying the food was poison. Her friend laughed softly. That girl is jealous. Jealous? Yes, you are a fine girl. Sometimes these women think their men will suddenly fall in love with the maid. Amara sighed. But she herself is very beautiful. Her friend shrugged. Not all men are the same. Some women just fear competition that does not even exist. Amara looked down. I just want to work, save money, and go back to school. Then that is exactly what you should do, her friend said. Focus on your job and ignore the drama. Amara nodded. You're right. She thanked her friend and returned to the mansion. The moment she stepped into the kitchen, Zainab appeared behind her again. I don't even know what to do with you anymore, Zainab said coldly. Amara froze. Did I not warn you not to cook good food for my husband? Amara looked confused. But Ma, from today, Zainab continued firmly, you will not cook anything for him unless I give you permission. Amara nodded slowly. Yes, Ma. I don't care if he asks you himself, Zainab added. You must ask me first, is that clear? Yes, Ma. Zainab stared at her for a moment before leaving the kitchen. When the house finally became quiet again, Amara sat down briefly on the kitchen stool. She rubbed her forehead in frustration. What exactly does this woman want from me? She whispered to herself. First she said I should cook bad food. Now she says I should not cook at all unless she approves it. She shook her head slowly. Why would someone hire a maid and then treat her this way? Amara sighed deeply. But after a moment she straightened her back. I just have to endure it, she murmured. Make my money, save it, and leave. Upstairs in the bedroom, Zainab and Chinadu were having a conversation of their own. Baby, what's wrong with you? Chinadu asked gently. You barely spoke to me today. Zainab folded her arms. Why are you asking me what the problem is when you already know? Chinadu frowned. What are you talking about? You stood in front of me earlier and called the food I rejected poison. That's not what I meant, Chinadu replied calmly. You overreacted. Zainab sighed dramatically. I know I said some awful things. You did. I'm sorry, she said softly. Chinadu studied her for a moment before nodding. Just don't let it happen again. It won't. Good. The tension between them faded as the conversation ended. But downstairs in the quiet kitchen, Amara continued washing dishes slowly, unaware that the conflicts inside that mansion were only beginning. She kept reminding herself of one simple truth as she worked. Some storms in life must simply be endured until the day the truth finally arrives. The following morning began quietly in the Carter mansion. Zainab had traveled out of town early that day, and for the first time since Amara Williams arrived at the house, the atmosphere felt calmer. Amara moved around the kitchen slowly, cleaning the counters, arranging the dining table and preparing breakfast without the tension she had grown used to. The silence in the house felt almost strange, as if the walls themselves were resting after days of constant arguments and complaints. A little while later, Chinadu Carter walked into the kitchen dressed for work. He paused for a moment when he saw Amara arranging the utensils neatly. Good morning, he said. Amara quickly wiped her hands on her apron and greeted him politely. Good morning, sir. Chinadu nodded slightly and leaned against the counter. Do you know how to prepare rice and stew? He asked. Yes, sir, Amara replied immediately. Good, he said calmly. Prepare rice and stew for me tonight. That is what I would like to eat. Amara hesitated briefly before responding. Sir, I need to ask Madam first before I cook anything for you. Chinadu looked slightly surprised by her answer. You saw that she left the house this morning, didn't you? Yes, sir. She traveled, and she will not be back until next week, he explained. There's no need to ask her anything. Just prepare the rice for me tonight. Amara lowered her head respectfully. Yes, sir. Chinadu picked up his briefcase and walked toward the door before turning back again. And Amara, please be careful with the salt this time. Amara felt a little embarrassed but nodded. Yes, sir. After he left for work, Amara continued with her duties around the house. She cleaned the living room, arranged the bedrooms, washed clothes, and finally returned to the kitchen to begin preparing dinner for the evening. By the time the sun began to set, the entire house smelled of fresh stew and steaming rice. Later that night, when Chinadu returned from work, Amara was waiting near the entrance of the compound. The gate stood slightly open, and the moment he drove in, she realized her mistake. I'm sorry, sir, she said quickly. I forgot to lock the gate earlier. Chinadu stepped out of the car and looked at the gate for a moment before turning to her. You know, we do not have a gate man at the moment, he said calmly. Leaving the gate open like this is not safe. I'm very sorry, sir, Amara replied sincerely. Chinadu studied her face briefly before nodding. Just make sure you lock it next time. Yes, sir. He paused again. When I return from work and the gate is locked, I will knock so you can open it. Amara nodded. I understand, sir. Good, he said before entering the house. As Amara returned to the kitchen to finish preparing dinner, the sound of another car arriving outside caught her attention. A tall man walked into the house laughing loudly as if he owned the place. Look who the cat dragged in, the man shouted the moment he saw Chinadu. Chinadu laughed as he walked toward him. Tunde Brown, it's been a long time. They shook hands warmly and sat down in the living room. My friend, Tunde said as he looked around the mansion. This house still looks amazing. Chinadu smiled. You have visited many times. Yes, but every time I come here it still feels impressive, Tunde replied with a laugh. They began talking casually like old friends who had not seen each other in a while. How is your mother? Tunde asked. And how is your girlfriend? What is her name again? Zainab, Chinadu replied. Tunde nodded. Yes, Zainab. Chinadu sighed slightly before responding. My mother is fine as always. But Zainab, that girl is something else. Tunde raised his eyebrows curiously. What do you mean? Chinadu leaned back in his chair. She spends money as if she owns a printing machine somewhere. Tunde burst into laughter. You're joking. I'm not, Chinadu replied. Shopping every week, traveling every other week. Sometimes I wonder if she even remembers that money is supposed to be earned first. Tunde shook his head with amusement. Wait a minute. Are you talking about the same woman you almost married? Yes. Tunde leaned forward. And you have been with her for how long now? Chinadu shrugged slightly. I don't even want to think about it. Tunde sighed. Well, my friend, peace of mind is very important in life. Everyone deserves peace. Chinadu nodded in agreement. That is exactly what I want. Tunde smiled. Trouble in life is already too much. If a relationship becomes another source of stress, then something is wrong. They both laughed quietly. After a moment, Chinadu looked at his friend. What about you? Is there someone in your life now? Tunde shrugged casually. There is a new girl, actually. We have been seeing each other for a few months. Chinadu smiled. Serious? Maybe, Tunde replied. Let's see where it goes. Just then, Amara entered the dining room carrying plates of food. Chinadu turned toward her. Please bring another plate. My friend will join me for dinner. Yes, sir, she replied politely. Meanwhile, across the city, Zainab Carter stood beside her car speaking with a man whose presence made her visibly uncomfortable. The man was Kunla Parker. What are you doing here? Zainab asked anxiously. Kunla smiled slowly. Is that how you greet your longtime partner? Zainab looked around nervously before lowering her voice. How did you find me? Kunla laughed quietly. You forget that I know you very well. Your social media stories, your expensive bracelets, and even the event you're organizing tonight told me exactly where to look. Zainab crossed her arms. This situation is different now. Kunla shook his head. You have had 7 months to finish this job. That is more than enough time. Zainab sighed deeply. Fine, I will fix it. Kunla nodded. We will work together again. Zainab looked uneasy. But how? Kunla smiled. I will enter the house as the new gate man. Zainab's eyes widened in disbelief. How did you know they were looking for a gate man? Kunla laughed again. You keep forgetting who you are dealing with. He leaned closer. I know everything. Zainab shook her head slowly. This is dangerous. Kunla's voice hardened. Since when did we become afraid of danger? Zainab remained silent, knowing very well that once Kunla made a decision, it was almost impossible to stop him. And somewhere deep inside her mind, she knew that the moment he stepped into the Carter mansion, the quiet life inside that house would soon be replaced by something far more dangerous. The following evening, the Carter mansion slowly settled into its usual routine. Amara Williams moved carefully between the kitchen and the dining room, preparing dinner the way Chinadu Carter had requested earlier that day. The house felt calmer without Zainab around, and for once Amara could do her work without constantly worrying about being shouted at or insulted. Chinadu arrived home later than usual that night. As he stepped into the living room, Amara greeted him respectfully. Good evening, sir. Good evening, he replied while loosening his tie. Is dinner ready? Yes, sir. He nodded and walked upstairs to freshen up before coming down to eat. While Amara finished arranging the plates on the table, Chinadu's phone rang. He stepped onto the balcony to answer the call, speaking in a calm but excited voice. Yes, I received the email, he said. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. There was a brief pause. Of course I'm happy. I've been waiting for this contract for a long time. Amara could hear the excitement in his voice even though she tried not to listen. When Chinadu ended the call, he walked back into the house with a wide smile. He immediately dialed another number. Hello, bro, he said when the call connected. Yes, it's confirmed. His laughter echoed through the living room. Yes, 3 billion naira. Amara froze slightly in the kitchen when she heard the number. 3 billion. Chinedu continued speaking excitedly. Yes, the contract has finally been awarded to me. I told you our proposal would win. It took months of planning, but it finally paid off. He laughed again. Yes, we have to celebrate. A few minutes later, he called out. Zainab. She had returned from her trip earlier that afternoon and was upstairs resting. Yes, she answered while walking down the staircase. You won't believe this, Chinadu said happily. What happened? I got the contract. Her eyes widened. Which contract? The one I told you about months ago, the big one. She walked closer. How big? Chinadu smiled proudly. 3 billion naira. For a brief moment, Zainab looked stunned. Then her face slowly transformed into an excited smile. That's huge, she said. I know, Chinadu replied. This calls for celebration. He turned toward the kitchen. Amara, bring out a bottle of wine. Yes, sir. Amara quickly brought the wine and placed it on the table before stepping away quietly. Chinadu poured 2 glasses and handed one to Zainab. To success, he said. Zainab raised her glass. To success, she repeated. They clinked glasses together. As they drank, Zainab watched him carefully. So when are you receiving the money? She asked casually. Chinedu laughed softly. What is it with you and money? Zainab shrugged playfully. Money is important. Yes, it is, Chinedu agreed. The payment should arrive next week, maybe the week after. And they'll pay directly into your account? She asked. Of course, he replied. I'm the lead contractor. Who else would they pay? Zainab smiled again, though her eyes carried a different kind of excitement. Later that night, while Chinedu was asleep, she quietly stepped outside the house and made a phone call. The person on the other end picked up almost immediately. Did you see my message? She asked. Kunla Parker's voice came through the phone. I just checked it. Is it true? Yes, Zainab replied. He's expecting 3 billion naira. There was a moment of silence before Kunla spoke again. That is bigger than I expected. So what do we do? She asked. The same thing we always do, Kunla replied calmly. We take the money and disappear. Zainab leaned against the wall as she listened. This isn't something we should rush, Kunla continued. Give me 3 days. I'll map out a plan and tell you exactly what we need to do. I trust you, Zainab said. Kunla's voice lowered slightly. As soon as we get that money, we vanish. You and I leave this place forever. Zainab ended the call slowly and returned to the bedroom. Meanwhile, downstairs in the servants' quarters, Amara lay awake on her small bed staring at the ceiling. She could not stop thinking about everything she had overheard over the past few days. The strange behavior between Zainab and the new gate man. The whispers she had heard late at night. And now the sudden excitement about the money. Her heart felt heavy. What if something bad happens? She whispered to herself. She remembered the conversation she had overheard between Zainab and Kunla earlier. Their voices had been quiet, but the meaning of their words had been clear enough. They were planning something. Something dangerous. Amara closed her eyes tightly. This is not my business, she told herself. I came here to work. She turned onto her side, trying to silence the thoughts racing through her mind. But another voice inside her refused to stay quiet. What if they succeed? She wondered. What if I could stop it, but I choose to stay silent? Her chest tightened with worry. What if I tell Sir and he doesn't believe me? She whispered. What if they turn everything against me? She sat up slowly on the bed. This is not my battle, she said quietly. I should just focus on my work and save my money. She lay back down again, repeating those words like a prayer. But deep inside her heart, she already knew something important. Some secrets refuse to stay hidden forever. And when the truth finally decides to reveal itself, it often arrives with consequences no one expected. 3 days after Chinadu Carter announced the contract, life in the mansion appeared to return to normal on the surface. Amara Williams continued her daily routine of cleaning the house, cooking meals, and running errands for Zainab Carter whenever she was asked. Yet beneath that quiet routine, tension quietly grew inside the house, though only a few people were aware of it. The new gate man had resumed work 2 days earlier. His name was Kunla Parker. To Chinadu, he was simply a man recommended through Zainab's friend, someone who supposedly needed a job. But to Zainab, he was something very different. Kunla had been part of her life long before she met Chinadu, and the secret connection between them was the foundation of the dangerous plan they were now preparing. Kunla performed his duties at the gate with surprising discipline. Each morning he greeted Chinadu respectfully as the man drove out to work. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Chinadu would respond before driving away. To anyone watching, Kunla looked like an ordinary security guard doing his job properly. But the moment Chinadu left the compound each day, Kunle's attention shifted toward the house itself. Inside the kitchen, Amara was the one who felt the impact of his presence the most. Kunla had developed an unusual appetite, and from the first day he resumed work, he began requesting food repeatedly. Amara, he called one afternoon while standing near the kitchen door. Yes, she replied. Where's my food? Amara looked at him with confusion. I gave you lunch less than an hour ago. Kunla shrugged. So? You already ate, she said carefully. And how is that your problem? He replied. Is it your money buying the food? Is it your groceries? Amara sighed quietly. She knew arguing with him would only bring trouble. I will bring something, she said. Kunla leaned against the wall. You're the cook here, aren't you? Your job is to cook. If you know what is good for you, you better go inside that kitchen and prepare my food. Amara walked back into the kitchen silently. Later that afternoon, she met her friend again outside the compound for a brief moment. My sister, I am telling you the truth, Amara said as she spoke. This new gate man eats like a beast. Her friend laughed in disbelief. What do you mean? He eats 5 times a day, Amara explained. 5 times. And if you see him, you will think he barely eats at all. Her friend shook her head with amusement. Is he a child or a warrior? I don't know, Amara replied. The worst part is that Madame supports him. She keeps telling me to treat him like an important guest. Her friend sighed. Just focus on your work. Their money is their problem. Amara nodded. You're right. But inside the mansion, Zainab had begun quietly encouraging Kunle's behavior. One afternoon, she called Amara into the living room. How many pieces of meat did you serve the gateman in his meal? She asked. Just 1 piece, Ma, Amara replied. Zainab frowned. Does he look like a beggar to you? Amara shook her head quickly. No, Ma. From now on, Zainab said firmly, you will serve him the same way you serve my husband. In fact, make sure he eats 3 full meals every day. Yes, Ma. And treat him properly. He is my friend's elder brother. Amara nodded. Yes, Ma. Meanwhile, Kunle grew more comfortable inside the compound with each passing day. Occasionally, he slipped into the house when he knew Chinedu was away, meeting Zainab secretly inside the bedroom. One evening, Amara accidentally overheard something she wished she had never heard. She had woken up in the middle of the night coughing and walked quietly toward the kitchen to get some water. As she passed the hallway leading to Chinedu's bedroom, she heard voices. At first, she thought she was imagining things. But when she stepped closer, the sound became clearer. There were 2 voices inside the room. Zainab's voice and Kunle's. Amara froze. She could hear laughter, whispers, and movements that left little doubt about what was happening. Her heart began beating rapidly. No, this cannot be happening, she whispered. She slowly returned to her room without making a sound. The next morning, she met her friend again outside the compound and finally told her what she had heard. My madam and the gateman are having an affair, Amara said quietly. Her friend gasped. Are you serious? I heard them myself, Amara replied. I went to get water in the night and heard everything from the bedroom. Her friend looked shocked. No wonder she defends him so much. Exactly, Amara said. Her friend grabbed her arm suddenly. Listen to me carefully. Do not get involved. Amara frowned. But Sir is a good man. He doesn't deserve this. Stay out of it, her friend insisted. Lovers fight today and sleep together tomorrow. If you say anything, they might turn everything against you. Amara remained silent for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. You're right. I came here to work, not to monitor anyone's love life. Her friend sighed with relief. Good. Just focus on your job and keep saving your money. Amara returned to the mansion with those words echoing in her mind. But inside her heart, the weight of the secret she carried felt heavier than before. Because she now knew something that could destroy everything inside that house. The Carter mansion remained calm on the outside, but inside the house, invisible tension had already begun tightening like a rope around everyone involved. Amara Williams continued doing her work as quietly as possible, pretending she knew nothing about the dangerous secret unfolding around her. Yet the more she tried to ignore it, the heavier the truth weighed on her heart. Every time she saw Chinedu Carter walking through the house with the calm confidence of a man who trusted the people around him, Amara felt a deep discomfort growing inside her. He greeted her politely each morning, asked simple questions about meals, and treated her with the kind of respect she rarely experienced in such houses. And yet the woman he planned to marry was secretly planning to destroy him. One evening, the mansion buzzed with excitement again. Chinedu had just received confirmation that the contract payment would soon be processed. He sat in the living room with his laptop open while speaking to his business partner on the phone. Yes, he said confidently. Everything is ready. The project execution plan is already complete. He paused briefly while listening. Yes, the payment will enter my company account first. After that, we can begin mobilizing resources immediately. He ended the call and leaned back on the sofa with satisfaction. Zainab watched him carefully from across the room. So the money is coming soon? She asked casually. Chinedu smiled. Yes, probably within a few days. That's wonderful, she replied, though the excitement in her eyes was very different from his. That night, once Chinadu went upstairs to sleep, Zainab quietly stepped outside again to make another phone call. Kunla Parker answered immediately. "Well?" he asked. "The money is coming soon," Zainab said. Kunla laughed softly. "Perfect timing." "So what is the plan?" she asked. Kunla spoke calmly. "As soon as the money drops into his account, we move fast. You transfer everything to the account we prepared, and then we disappear." Zainab remained silent for a moment. "And if he notices?" Kunla's voice hardened. "By the time he notices, we will already be gone." Inside the servants' quarters, Amara sat quietly on her bed that same night thinking about everything she had heard over the past few days. Her friend's advice echoed repeatedly in her mind. Stay out of it. Mind your business. But another voice inside her refused to stay silent. What if something terrible happens? She sighed deeply. If I say something, they might turn it against me, she whispered to herself. But the thought of watching a good man lose everything without even knowing what was coming troubled her deeply. For several minutes she struggled with the decision. Then finally she stood up slowly. I cannot carry this burden alone, she said quietly. The next morning, as Chinadu prepared to leave for work, Amara approached him nervously. Sir, may I speak with you for a moment? Chinadu looked surprised but nodded. Yes, go ahead. Amara hesitated. Her hands trembled slightly. Sir, I don't know how to say this. Chinadu studied her expression carefully. What is it? Amara took a deep breath. Sir, please forgive me if I am wrong, but I believe something bad is being planned against you. Chinadu frowned. What do you mean? Amara explained everything she had seen and heard. The secret meetings between Zainab and the gate man, the strange conversations late at night, and the phone calls discussing the money. At first, Chinadu simply stared at her without speaking. When she finished, he sat down slowly. You are saying my fiancé and the gate man are planning to steal my money? Amara lowered her head. Yes, sir. The room fell silent. After a long moment, Chinadu spoke quietly. If what you are saying is true, then we will know very soon. Instead of confronting Zainab immediately, Chinadu contacted his bank and placed additional security on the account where the contract payment would arrive. He also installed temporary monitoring on the house cameras without informing anyone. 3 days later, the payment of 3 billion naira finally entered his account. That same night, Zainab quietly accessed Chinedu's laptop while he slept and attempted to transfer the money. But the transaction failed immediately. Before she could try again, the bedroom lights suddenly turned on. Chinedu stood in the doorway. His face was calm, but his eyes were filled with disappointment. Looking for something? He asked. Zainab froze. A moment later, security officers entered the room. Kunla Parker was arrested at the gate before he could escape. As everything unfolded, Zainab finally realized that her plan had completely collapsed. Within days, both she and Kunle were taken into custody for fraud and conspiracy. The Carter mansion eventually returned to its peaceful routine. Amara continued working there, but her relationship with Chinadu changed slightly after that day. He trusted her not just as a worker, but as someone who had shown courage when it mattered most. One afternoon, while sitting in the living room, Chinadu spoke quietly. You could have stayed silent, he said. Amara smiled gently. But silence sometimes helps the wrong people succeed. Chinedu nodded thoughtfully. Because in life, greed often blinds people to the value of honesty. Zainab and Kunla believed that money was worth any betrayal, but their desire for quick wealth ultimately destroyed them. Meanwhile, Amara, who had very little, chose integrity over fear. And in the end, the truth always finds a way to reveal itself, reminding everyone that patience, honesty, and courage are far more powerful than deception and greed.
Zainab and Kunle believed that quick money could supersede patience, time, consistency, and diligence. Amara, on the other hand, was the least most respected person in the household. But because of how kind, her boss was to her. She found a need in her to be able to tell him what she had observed and what they were planning against him. You know, this story is just telling us that no matter what the world tells you, that you don't need to work for your money, or you don't need to do hard labor for what you think is yours. What you do, patience and consistency could never be given. It needs to be earned. So yes, stories like this remind us that chasing fast money and success will lead you nowhere. Because in the end, betrayal and distrust taints your name, but good name is better than money. So my beautiful flowers, I just want to ask you guys that will you choose this easy and soft route, or would you go for character, diligence and consistency? Please, I would love to hear your comments, and I would love to see how each and every one of you view this story. Thank you. See you guys next